everybody, Lord Tremendous here. Got another book review here for you. This is book 8 out of 11 of Starships Apocalypse, Volume 2, Time and Terrors, which is a collection of short stories by Andrew P. McGregor. It's still science fiction, it's still published on April 4th, 2021, and this one is 22 pages long. This one's actually pretty good, so let's get to it. Again, short stories. I'm not doing a spoiler-free review because honestly it was just too difficult to do without spoiling a whole bunch of stuff. This is all going to be full of spoilers. I'm going to go through every inch of the story. So if you don't like spoilers, I respect that. Please pause the video, click on the link below, get a copy of the book, read it, come back, watch the video, and let me know what you think. Did I nail it? Did I miss it? Somewhere in between? Love to have the conversation. All right, you're still here, so get ready to be spoiled. The main character in this one is Lucan Ford, which he is a scumbag. There's no other way to put it. And the author does a great job showing that this guy is an absolute POS. Like, he's just not good people. I don't like him, and I don't believe you're supposed to. He's a bad guy. He was exiled to the past. He did something in the future, and his punishment was being exiled to the past. Well, he survived literally thousands of years to reach what was his present, which I think is around the year 2600. Not 100% on that one, but I gathered from the book it was around the year 2600. But he survived that whole time in order to get revenge on the guy that sent him to the past and take control of the time machine, because he's got all that knowledge of the past and the future. So surviving all that time clearly was an option. So once he's done that, the book picks up and he's done that. He's killed the guy that exiled him to the past. He's stolen the time machine, and he's on a spaceship that is currently fleeing from the entire Terran army, which I assume is the entire Earth army. Terran and Earth, that's pretty much the same thing, right? So yeah, he's running from pretty much the whole army, which is really cool, and he's not going to get away. Like, they're gaining on him. The author makes no qualms about it. It's like, hey, he's got a head start, but he's not faster than them. So he reaches over and he turns on the time machine in order to try to escape the Terrans. And in order to gain access to the machine and its functions, he has to pass a series of trials, basically. And it sucks him in and transports him to, I think, inside of it, maybe. I'm not 100% on that. And he has to pass these trials in order to access the machine and basically become a Time Lord. It's kind of cool, actually. I like the concept. Cover was good. Editing was all right. There was a few spots, small issues that honestly, just a quick reread of the book, the author should be able to pick up and fix, no problem. Small things. It just caught my attention, but not really enough to ruin anything. The story flow was good, and the feel was good. My problem is Lucan Ford's dialogue is stilted. Nobody talks to themselves like that, especially out loud. It was like I mean, obviously the character was talking out loud for the reader's benefit, but it was like the character knew they were talking out loud for the character's benefit. I didn't like that. It kind of made it difficult to get through the story because it was a very stilted dialogue. Most people aren't going to be capable of doing stuff like that to humans like us. It's just it's a weird stilted dialogue, and I don't think it really added anything to the story. I think it would have been better if these were just his internal thoughts that the reader could have read, because until he starts the trials, there's really no one for him to talk to, and so talking just to himself like that is a little weird. Maybe explaining it like it's an old practice that he learned as he spent 1,200 years in the past with sentient life not in existence, so he took up that pattern. Just a quick sentence or two to explain it might have helped, but completely up to the author. It's not like it ruins the story. It just made the story flow and the feel a little off. I'm nitpicking, I admit that, but it's kind of my job with these videos. So like I said, the story starts off, Lucan's in a stolen spaceship running from the Terran army, and they're gaining on him. He killed the guy that exiled him to the past, he stole the time machine and is trying to escape, but he's not not going fast enough. They're catching up to him and arming weapons, you know. So he's got an issue here. So he was able to accomplish all this because he used his knowledge of the past and the future to perfectly position himself to do this. He was basically in the inner circle of the guy that exiled him in the future. Of course, the guy had no idea because that part of his future hadn't occurred yet. And it kind of begs the question, though, why is punishment in the future, other than a really, really cool plot hook, why would punishment in the future be exiled to the past? Like, I get it, they did it with Looper and stuff like that, but even in Looper, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because if the individual who has advanced knowledge, no matter who they are, is able to survive it and wait, if they get a hold of you or set something up in motion to stop you, like, I don't know, kill your great-great-grandparents or something like that, it does the paradox thing, and then you got the time variance and all that other stuff. I mean, who really knows what happens? Time travel's a myth, but my point is, why would that be the idea? This guy clearly can live forever. That it just feels like everything he knows, the people that exiled him should know or would have known. So why is exile to the past the thing? Why not just take him out? Is like death not a thing? Like, I get it, it's really hard to kill people in the future, but there's got to be a way, right? Like, shoot them into the sun or something like that. It just seems like there's a better way to deal with your criminals than sending them to the past. It seems like a really bad idea. And this story proves that. But again, I'm nitpicking, I get that, but it is a question worth asking. In my opinion, the author should spend a paragraph to just explain why people are exiled to the past so that it makes sense to the reader. Because otherwise, they're going to ask this question and there's no answer in the story. So a quick just, you know, this is why it happens and that's why it's a practice, and Lucan is an outlier that they didn't expect. That should, an anomaly that shouldn't have been possible. Something along those lines just to justify the practice. Anyway, Lucan's trying to get away from the Terran army. He's not going to be fast enough, so he activates the time machine, and he knows how to do it because he saw his predecessor, the guy who exiles him in the future. He killed him, but he had seen him activate it plenty of times, so he knew how to do it. So he activates the thing by sticking his arm into a control panel, and it activates and it starts talking to him, which he was like, "Oh my God, you talk? I had no idea." And it's like, "Yeah, but you're not my user." And he's like, "Nope, I killed that prick." And it's like, Lucan is like probably the most advanced human ever to exist. He's lived throughout all of human history, thousands of years, and he's got future, you know, knowledge and stuff like that. I just got an issue with believing that he would talk like a 22-year-old schmuck. You know, his name isn't Chad, but he acts like a Chad. And I get it. You're not supposed to like Lucan, and he's supposed to be the bad guy. I get that, and the author nails that. But he's he's probably close to 2,700 years old, right? He's been through everything. His wisdom, his experience, the way he talks right now, the way you talk now as an adult is not the way you talked as when you were a child. Your speech patterns and habits and the way you perceive and interact with the world, especially at the verbal level, has changed. And Lucan is not that. He talks like a 22-year-old, rich kid, like a Chad, basically, the whole time. He swears a lot. He does, his mentality is that of an idiot, and he's not an idiot. This is the guy that was, yes, he got exiled, but he survived for 2,600 years, or give or take, and it's just, he talks like a moron. It would be like I don't know, Stephen Hawking talking like a valley girl, or Neil deGrasse Tyson just constantly talking like he was some sort of Chad. I have a huge issue with that because it doesn't make any sense. He would have different mannerisms. He would have different speech policies. Like, it's cool because he knows how to speak all these different languages, and that comes up in the trials. But in this situation, like, whenever he talks normally, it doesn't fit the character that was created, and that's a major issue for me because it kind of takes you out of the story. It ruins the immersion a little bit. Anyway, the machine tells him that if he will allow he'll allow Lucan to become a user, but he has to pass the trials first. Will he accept? And Lucan is literally stuck between a rock and a hard place and is like, yeah, sure, I guess. And it sucks him into the machine, and it's a really cool scene, the way his arm gets sucked in and he starts shrinking. It's kind of cool. But he gets basically teleported to a tower. I think he's inside the time machine. I'm guessing. It doesn't really tell you where he goes. But basically, he's teleported to a tower where he has to collect gems on each level. The machine calls it stones, but yeah, gems basically, and bring them to the top level in order to be deemed worthy. And I got to be honest, when I first heard all that, I was like, why does collecting rocks on each level make you worthy? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I got your stone. Now give me the power over time and space. I didn't get it, but it does make sense at the end, and I do respect that the author touched on that at the end because it answers a question. And honestly, it was at the time I felt like it was a big plot hole, but I'm glad at the end of the book it is explained. Each floor, there's 5 floors, 6 really, but 5 of the floors have a trial for him. And basically, it's a guardian that Lucan has to defeat in order to get a hold of the stones. On the first floor of the building, which is really like he gets teleported outside of it, but it's kind of the first floor, if you will, the outside floor or whatever. There's a gem out there, so it counts. And he's got, so like Lucan isn't exactly unarmed. He's got a skin suit, basically this futuristic diamond hard suit that enhances his strength and abilities and has Wolverine claws, although they're not adamantium. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, basically he's not completely helpless. And that'll come into play a little bit later. But on the first floor, there's a T-Rex, a dinosaur that attacks him, which is pretty cool. And I like that Lucan isn't able to just overpower this thing and destroy it. He's terrified, and rightfully so. That is the correct response. And he runs away from it and dives into basically inside the tower, which is quote unquote the second floor. And inside the second floor is a mammoth, a woolly mammoth. And this thing is not gentle. It attacks him. Breaks his pinky. It really messes him up a little bit. He fights it a little bit. He claws the trunk and everything and is able to run past it. He goes back down to the first floor because the T-Rex, there's another way out. And the T-Rex is kind of stupid, so it's sitting by the way he went in. So he runs back to the first floor, grabs the gem, turns around. The T-Rex is on him, almost bites him in half. He dives out of the way, rolls away, sprints back. Thanks to the suit, he's able to outpace the T-Rex, gets back to the second floor where the mammoth is at. The mammoth is now furious and is trying to break through the doorway because obviously the doorway is smaller than the mammoth. But it's trying to break through the doorway to get to Lucan, which is kind of neat. So Lucan is able to get back up there, he tries to talk to the mammoth like, dude, I don't want to fight you. I don't have a problem with you. Get out of the way. And the mammoth doesn't understand English. And it's just like, kill, kill, kill. Which is interesting because when you think of a mammoth, I don't think, aggressive mode. But yeah, this one is all sorts of evil big boss. And so he fights it a little bit. He stabs it in the trunk some more, cuts it up a little bit. But mostly he just gets around it and is able to grab its stone and runs up to the third floor. Well, he gets up to the third floor and the mammoth is trying to come after him. He's slamming into the wall and it's cracking, like the walls are cracking. And so he's like, oh crap, this thing's going to get through. I better hurry up and get done. So he goes up to the third floor, and there's an old-fashioned knight, plate armor. He's got a golden, filigreed sword. He's also got a blunderbuss, which was interesting. It kind of made me wonder, like, the story behind the knight. But the author addresses that. He's like, even Lucan is like, he's been through that time period, and he never met a knight, this German knight that had a sword like that and a blunderbuss. It was very interesting. But it's kind of cool, too. I like that the author showed that was a little out of place, making this in particular trial boss unique. I like that a lot. So the knight holds up the blunderbuss at him, and Lucan tries to talk to him. He's like, dude, cool, we're cool. And he's like, you're a demon. And he goes, oh yeah, my skin suit. He's like, that's not exactly what it is. So he goes, listen, I'm going to take off my mask and don't shoot me, all right? And the knight's scared. And so he takes off his mask, but he does it like with the automatic mode, so it kind of like gets sucked into the neckline or whatever, which freaks the knight out. And he's like, it's great, because Lucan's like, ooh, Yeah, you're not used to stuff like that. I should have taken off by my hands, right? And then the knight shoots him in the face with a blunderbuss. Now, what confuses me about this is that getting his head like shot all to hell by a close range blunderbuss shot, number one, doesn't just completely decimate his head and kill him and end the story right there. He takes a lot of damage. He loses his teeth. He's got a bunch of holes in his face. His brain is literally leaking blood. And after a few minutes, he gets back up. Now, it could be the suit. I know the suit does have healing properties and stuff, but how is he able to survive getting shot in the face by a blunderbuss, which is basically the original shotgun? That requires a lot more explanation, like how he survived that. There is no explanation. He gets up, the knight is getting ready to fight the mammoth, who is still desperately trying to get to the third floor. He is now actually at the entrance to the third floor trying to break through, and he's about to. The knight turns around as Lucan stands up, and he's like, "But I killed you." And Lucan just kind of shrugs and goes, "You tried," all slurring and stuff because his face is all shot to hell. And again, it doesn't explain why he didn't die at all. Like, there's no explanation for that. I know the suit probably had something to do with it, but the suit wasn't on his face. You know, like, he has to will the mask back into place. It's very confusing. I would like to know what technology saved his life, because if you're just saying that wearing the suit stops you from getting your head blown off by a shotgun blast that's literally a few feet away, that's going to require a paragraph or two of explanation, like how that happened, because otherwise it feels like a plot hole or plot armor, and neither is acceptable. But what is acceptable is Lucan then uses the distraction of the mammoth trying to kill the knight, trying to get into the floor to fight the knight, to grab the stone and run up to the fourth floor. The knight he's got his blunderbuss trained on the mammoth, and he kind of turns to go after Lucan, but just as he does, the mammoth busts through the wall and or through the doorway anyway, and is like, "I'm back." And so the knight kind of turns around to fight the mammoth. Lucan, who's running up to the fourth floor, hears the fight happening and is just kind of like, "Good luck, Mr. Knight." So he gets to the fourth floor, and there's a soldier up there. He's in, full fatigues, and he's looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. It looks like he may have just gotten there. He looks a little stunned. And when Lucan gets there, he announces himself. He's like, "Hi!" And the Australian soldier turns around and aims his rifle at him. He's like, "Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. I'm not a threat. I don't want to fight you. Come on, man." And the soldier's like, "Who are you? Where am I? What's going on?" And he kind of explains that I was on a Black Hawk. I was, rappelling down, and all of a sudden I was here. Am I dead? And Lucan's like, "I have no idea. I'm here too." He goes, "But I can get us out of here. I need that stone, and I need to get it up to the top floor. Will you help me?" And the soldier's like, "I can't help you do that. I can't let you touch the stone. I don't know why, but I'm compelled to protect it." And Lucan's like, "Well, okay, I respect that. What if you grab the stone and come with me?" And I thought that was clever. I thought, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have thought just violence and probably got shot for my trouble. And he's like, "Okay, yeah, I could probably do that." So he grabs the stone, and just as he grabs the stone, the mammoth is there again. And they're like, "Oh crap." So they go running away from the mammoth. They go back down all the way down to like the first floor. And as they get there, I'm sorry, when the mammoth busts through into the fourth floor, the knight is with the mammoth. Like, they have an alliance all of a sudden. His blunderbuss is missing, but he still has his halberd. Yeah, he had a halberd. Sorry if I forgot about that. So yeah, they retreat. They run away because they don't want to fight the mammoth and the knight. Although the Australian soldier does kind of, like, "Oh crap," he gets ready to shoot him, but he holds off. Well, they run all the way back down to the first floor where the T-Rex is, and they're on the floor. They're inside the tower still, but the T-Rex has figured out it can bust through the wall, and so it's trying to claw its way through, so they're kind of stuck now. The mammoth and the knight are running down the stairs after them. The T-Rex is stopping them from escaping the tower. They're kind of screwed. And what ends up happening is the T-Rex busts through the wall just as the mammoth busts through the doorway. The soldier shoots the T-Rex a little bit. Doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. The rifle bullets do hurt him a little bit. He's bleeding a little bit, but it's not enough. But just as the T-Rex is getting ready to attack him, the mammoth busts through the wall. They kind of look at each other, and the T-Rex charges the mammoth. They fight. The mammoth gets tore up, and then the Australian soldier fires a grenade from his rifle. He's got the grenade launcher attachment underneath it. Fires a grenade into the back of the T-Rex, destroying the T-Rex, killing it outright. And then the mammoth, while it's not dead right away, it's really tore up from the T-Rex and it kind of slumps over. And Lucan turns around to the soldier and was like, awesome, thanks, man, that was great. And just as he does that, the knight shows up and goes, die, and slices the Australian soldier, basically cuts his head in half with his halberd. Killing the soldier dead. Lucan gets really mad about this because he even says, he goes, I was starting to like that guy. And he jumps on the knight. He tries to claw him to kill him, but for some reason, the plate armor is tougher than his futuristic werewolf claws. So I had a little issue with that, but it was still kind of cool. He retracts the claws and he's able to punch the plate armor using his suit's enhanced strength into submission. Basically, he crushes the armor into the guy's chest, making it hard for him to breathe. Then he gets up, retrieves the rifle, and shoots the knight a few times, killing him dead. Then he takes the ammo, the stone, and the grenades off the dead Australian soldier, grabs the rifle, and he heads up to the 5th floor where he encounters himself. And this one is a really kind of like a truncated thing. Like he gets there and he's like, what the hell took you so long? And he's like, are you really me? And he's like, yeah, I have no idea what's going on, but bottom line is get us the hell out of here. And he's like, yeah, I'm not taking any chances. Get the hell away. And his doppelganger or whatever goes, yeah, no problem. Look, I'm in the corner. I don't want anything to do with you. Take the stone. Get us the hell out of here. And he's like, yeah. And he loads a grenade into the gun. He goes, nothing personal, but you stay right where you are. And he's like, yep, I get it. I get it 100%. I do the same thing. So the original Lucan, our Lucan, grabs the stone, and as soon as he does, the other Lucan, the doppelganger's like, he starts to like go invisible, which, see, and this was a little bit of an issue for me here too, because if Lucan could go invisible, why didn't he just do that from the start? He could have gotten past pretty much everything and been in the first, been to the top floor with very little issue. Maybe the T-Rex would have smelled him. Maybe the mammoth, but the knight, the soldier, and possibly even himself wouldn't have even noticed that he was there, more than likely. Maybe himself if he had his, invisible detection sensors on at the time. So a little bit of a plot hole there that would need to be explained, because if Lucan's suit has the power of invisibility, why wasn't that utilized immediately? Anyway, the guy starts to go invisible and says, sorry, can't help it, I'm being compelled. And our Lucan goes, yeah, I can't help it either, and fires a grenade into his doppelganger, killing him. It's pretty gruesome, but awesome at the same time. So then he gets up to the top floor and the time machine is there. And he's like, what the heck, time machine? Why did I have to fight all that stuff? And the time machine is like, you had to do what you hate to do. You hate fighting. You hate conflict. So that was your trial. You had to fight those 5 things. And you had to fight the 5 things you hate most. And he's like, so I hate myself? And the time machine's like, does the evidence support that? And Lucan's like, well, damn. I thought it was pretty clever. It's like, okay, so he had to fight the things, but he does explain a little bit. He doesn't hate T-Rexes or mammoths or knights or anything like that. He hates how they're perceived. T-Rexes weren't these apex predators, and he knows this because he was there. Mammoths weren't these noble creatures, and he knows that because he was there. These knights, they're not these chivalrous beings, and he knows that because he was there. He doesn't really touch on the Australian soldier thing, like why he hates the Australian soldier. But maybe a plot hole, maybe an oversight, I don't know. Read the story, find out for yourself, and let me know what you think, because I'm kind of on the fence with that one. But then, of course, he does. He kind of hates himself a little bit, and that was kind of, like, he doesn't do this soul-searching or has an epiphany or anything like that, but he's like, Okay, maybe I do a little bit. I could get there. So basically, the machine is like, whatever. You're now an authorized user, and teleports him back to the spaceship where the story started. And now a little bit of time has passed, but not a ton of it. And one of the ships have fired a missile at him, which is about 20 meters away. Which, even by space standards, that's basically a detonation waiting to happen. So he's like, you can slow down time, and the machine's like, yeah. He goes, so could you revert time if I were to die? And the machine's like, yeah, I can do that if you want. And he's like, yeah, let's make that a policy. And the machine's like, done. And he's like, if you could do that, why didn't my predecessor, the guy who I killed, have that set up? And the machine was like, he never asked. So it was great because Luke is like, wow, that guy was an idiot. Okay, great. I made the right decision. I thought that was really clever. So yeah, Lucan uses a time machine to escape the army and travels back to an old dictator friend's stronghold back in the year 2300. When he arrives, he basically walks out, causes a whole bunch of chaos because it's basically like this big dinner party that was happening. People are screaming and freaking out, and he steps out, and his friend is like, what the heck? Keep in mind, his face is all messed up from getting shot by the knight with the blunderbuss. Like, he's still all messed up. He's bleeding on the table and stuff, and he comes walking out like he's a Time Lord and says, see, I told you I could time travel. And he starts looking around for the fridge because he's hungry. I gotta be honest, I laughed pretty hard because basically, in my mind, this story is how an evil Doctor Who started. This is how the Time Lord Doctor Who's, like, the original Doctor started. It's just the only thing that makes sense, and I actually really enjoyed it. So in the end, this was a no-brainer. This was an easy 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this story very much. The reason that it's not a 5 out of 5 is because there were a few small errors in editing and stuff like that, some misspellings. Not a ton, but enough to catch my attention. I didn't like the dialogue that Lucan had with himself. Like it was stilted, it was weird. People don't talk like that. Even 2,700-year-old beings would have a more sophisticated dialogue. I didn't like Lucan's personality. He's, like I said, he sounded like a Chad. And I know you're not supposed to like Lucan. I get that's part of it, and the author does a wonderful job making that happen, but the character that he created with the background that he had did not match his personality. It didn't make any sense, and I didn't like it. Like I said, he talked like a 22-year-old spoiled kid, and I didn't like that at all. It didn't seem right. It didn't fit the character, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. By all means, jump in the comment section, let me know. But also the small thing where he kind of went past explaining why he didn't like the Australian soldier. I know this author is Australian. I don't know if he was ever a soldier or not, but it makes me wonder, is that a plot hole? Was that just a cool character to have in there? If he had to fight everyone that he hated, or potentially had to fight everyone he hated, because the Time Machine did say he did not have to fight everybody. How he circumvented everybody is beyond. It was up to him. So, but he had to fight. He was pitted against things that he hated. It doesn't really explain why why you would have to fight the Australian soldier then. So I feel that's a little bit of a plot hole. But the biggest reason that this isn't a 5 out of 5 is the invisibility capability of his suit. When that happened, it just kind of was like, wow, Lucan's a moron. This was his greatest weapon in this situation. And for somebody who hates fighting, who tries to avoid fights at all costs, per what the story was saying, invisibility would have been his go-to move. That would have been the absolute first thing he did in order to survive and get past all this. And the fact that it didn't even occur to him feels like a massive plot hole for me. And all those reasons, but especially mainly that, is the reason that this is a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this story. I really did. But I couldn't in good conscience give it a 5 out of 5, given the amount of issues that I took with certain plot choices. And that's it. That's another book review in the history books. Again, as I always like to say, this is just one guy's opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Please click the link in the description below. Get a copy of the book. It's not expensive, and it's definitely worth the time. Read through the story. Come back and let me know what you think. Was I right? Was I wrong? Was I somewhere in between? I think it would be really cool to have a conversation about it. As always, though, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. And as always, thanks.